rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, I did some thinking today because I was interacting with a particular moron on X. And yes, they are still morons. They always will be morons. But I started thinking about what it is that makes them so much of a moron. I mean, you would think after how many conspiracy theories were found to be true, after how many times the mainstream media was wrong about something, you would think that they would wake up and actually realize that they're wrong and that maybe they need to change their thinking. Well, yeah, that apparently will never happen. But the key about it is that I think I figured out part of their problem. Definitely part of their problem. We'll get into that a little bit later on tonight. Also, too, we have some articles about what's happening in the justice system, in particular toward Trump's executive orders, and a couple of other little surprises because, one thing about the Democrats is that whenever a Democrat jumps ship or gets pushed out, all of a sudden the real truth starts coming to light. And it's almost like being a part of that secret society. And then when you get ousted from the secret society, all of a sudden, all the secrets that you normally would hold dear and true are no longer the secrets that you want to hold anymore. And so you just start blabbing. Well, that's what happened to this one individual. And I got more on that one as well. But first, let's get on to tonight's startup, of course, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. And tonight's Pledge of Allegiance is going to be led by none other than Ms. T of Texas, from Rumble Land, also a.k.a. known as Tommy, over on Facebook land. So, if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. And no, it doesn't have to be mine in particular, okay? But remove your hat if you're wearing one like me, place your hand over your heart, and let's follow along with Ms. T of Texas in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your version of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting the pledge in your style. Take that audio or video file, either one, I don't care. But take that audio file or video file and attach it to an email. Send it in to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will do everything I can to get you, obviously, into the rotation. Like to get some new ones, folks. Like to get some new ones. Not the saying that I don't like the old ones, but, I mean, variety is the spice of life, right? Anyway, unless, of course, it comes to marriage. You don't want to change your marriage very often. I'm just saying. All right. Let's get on to tonight's headliner. Oh, but before I do, today is Saturday. Tonight's drink of choice is Four Roses Single Barrel. Look at that. I just popped this bottle. This is the first sip of this particular bottle for this. So, yeah, that is what is in the Trump 2024 glass. That's right, the Trump 2024 glass with the stones, because, as 3 Chevy always says, it takes stones to drink with whiskey. Here we go. Yep. It's got a nice spice to it at the very end. I'm just saying. It's smooth. Anyway, all right, let's get on to tonight's headliner sponsor. Tonight is, of course, the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government, as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Check this thing out. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant, and no cheap glue here, folks. They stitched the binding all the way through the leather and the pages. It has got a 100-year warranty against materials and workmanship defects, such that if something does go wrong, you can send it in back to the manufacturer, and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you to study for your civics badge in Scouts. My rumblers are telling me that, like 3 Chevy, who's a real smart guy, says that all rounded corners are guaranteed to add up to 360 degrees. And, of course, the venerable Buddy Weiser says no additional charge for the Roman numerals contained within. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours today. Also, don't forget to check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings, because, believe me, you'll come out a lot wiser because of it. Kind of be like Buddy. Anyway, go and check them out today. And I thank them for allowing me to be an affiliate. All right, folks. Fan favorite segment coming up. That is On This Day in American History. And, of course, for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb, chock full of all kinds. Look at the thickness of this book, folks. Chock full of all kinds of factoids and stories about our historical founding. It is wonderful. Tonight, of course, is February 8th, and we're going to be talking about a certain place of universal study. On February 8th in 1693, it saw the birth of the College of William and Mary, one of the nation's oldest colleges. At the request of Virginian colonists, King William III and Queen Mary II granted a charter that established a certain place of universal study, a perpetual college of divinity, philosophy, languages, and the good arts and sciences, to be supported and maintained in all time coming. Americans have long recognized the importance of a strong university system, By the time of our nation's founding, a handful of institutions of higher learning had already been established. The following are the oldest U.S. colleges, with the year in which each institution became a bachelor's degree granting institution. So, for an example, Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, 1636. The College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, 1693. Yale University, New Haven, Connecticut, 1701. Princeton University, Princeton, New Jersey, 1746. Columbia University, New York City, New York, 1754. University of Pennsylvania from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 1757. Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, 1764. Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, 1766, and Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire, 1769. In the United States today, there are approximately 2,675 four-year institutions and 1,670 two-year institutions, serving approximately 18 million students. It is the finest system of colleges and universities in the world. And most of them are spit out and become radical lunatic leftists right now because the leftists have taken over that system. No, that isn't part of the book. That's just my commentary on the side. Anyway. Oh my gosh. All right. That's just, well, I mean, it is what it is. You know, they constantly, and this is part of the reason why the leftists actually took over the university system. They wanted to shape young minds and turn them into indoctrinated fools, which, you know, is kind of along the lines that they are doing right now. There is quite a few of these fools out there. Now I got to find my cursor. There it is. All right. So let's go ahead and start off with a little bit of a chuckle. And by that, I don't mean, you know, Chuckles the Clown as in Chuck or Senator Chuck Schumer. I don't want to start with him because, yeah, anyway. TheDailyMail.com is reporting this, and I've seen this actually elsewhere, but this was the one that came up in my feed with regards to it. Apparently, the people at CNN are so bad that they're even their back staff. I mean, we already know that they're just absolutely horrible folks, in terms of being able to tell the truth. Well, apparently their back staff, meaning the people that are in the back rooms creating like all the chyrons and the special, you know, effects and so on and so forth. Well, apparently somebody made a mistake, or possibly actually even just kind of tossed it out there and said, you know, yeah, this would be kind of fun. Apparently they had a graphic the other night that confused Obama with Osama bin Laden. They were showing a graphic, and here's a picture of the graphic right here. Go ahead and blow that up for you. Here's a picture of the graphic. The graphic was on screen, and it said Obama bin Laden associate. They were talking about, of course, the people. They were talking about it, you know, how they were interrogated, I guess, is the best way to do it. So anyway. So yeah, this. Well, thanks, David. If I call you Dave, is that going to be a problem? Anyway, David over on Facebook says, Whiskey, glad to be here again. I've been waiting for you to go live. Always look forward to your commentary on the lunatics of the left. Laugh out loud. Thank you. I do appreciate that. Anyway, let's get back to the quick story. So, yeah. Apparently, some were even suggesting that the goof was intentional. I would hope that it was. It's just pretty funny. Anyway, like I said, apparently CNN can't get their own freaking act together, and people in their back pocket. All right. So, Doge and its access, by the way, to to all of the government payment systems and things like that. Well, apparently that kind of got some people riled up. And now there are 14 states here in the Epoch Times. Now there are 14 states that are planning on filing a lawsuit against Doge's access to government payment systems. The state attorneys general, I guess that's how you do it when you're doing like multiples. But anyway, anyway, hey, that's my line, David. David said, "You're good. You can call me Dave. Just don't call me late for dinner." That's what I keep telling people. Anyway. All right. Sorry. Distraction. Wait a minute. Where's my horn? That's right. We're off the rails already. And we're not even 15 minutes in. Anyway, actually, I think we're 16 minutes in, but whatever. All right. 14 states are going to file a lawsuit against Doge, at Doge's access to government payment systems. And, yeah, they've already started. There's several things they have gone and like put, stops, on it, temporary injunctions, just all kinds of stuff. Now, I told you before, the left is not going to go down without a fight. They're not just rolling over and like accepting defeat. I'll explain a little more later, on in the program with a potential reason as to why. But yeah, they're putting out all the stops. They're going after these people as much as they can. And the thing about it is that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he did not grant them write access. He granted them read-only access. And now, because of these injunctions and stuff, at least in terms of the Treasury, he's basically said, okay, well, it's going to be a Treasury employee who really would already be in there anyway, who's going to be helping them. So, yeah. Look, folks, there's nothing that they can do. They are trying everything that they can. They're trying to claim that this is unconstitutional. It's not. This is under the executive branch. They are trying to claim that this is unprecedented. Yeah, it's not. If you recall, I was telling you last night about the United States Digital Service or whatever it was that was built by Obama there. And so anyway, they are all, of course, and all of these people, by the way, the attorneys general are from New York, California, Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Minnesota, Nevada, Rhode Island, and Vermont. Now, what does all of that have in common? Well, it's probably all Democrats. Democrat run. Anyway, so also, too, a coalition of labor unions sued to block Doge's access, which, by the way, Letitia James, I just got to tell you, she was on X, and she was like, I don't know if she was tooting her own horn or what the deal was, but the leftists, of course, jumped on and were like, yay, Letitia James won her lawsuit. She didn't win crap, people. All she got was a 1 week temporary injunction. That's it. That's all she got. And the thing about it is that a lot of people don't seem to understand is that all of these judges are potentially issuing lawless bans. And every single one of them, by the way, have extremist records. So if you think that the swamp was getting exposed during Trump's first term, now you're really seeing the exposure of all of this. And, well, let me just show you here. This is in the Federalist. So judges issuing lawless bans on Trump's clearly illegal executive actions have extremist records. Both executive orders are clearly within the president's lawful authority, and any judicial intervention to block them rests on the flawed theory of executive power. So the two judges in particular that this article's talking about, U.S. District Judge George O'Toole Jr., who on Thursday temporarily blocked Trump's federal employer buyout program that originally gave federal workers the option to decide to leave their current role with full pay and benefits until September 30th of 2025. The memo was issued in accordance with Trump's goal of shrinking the federal workforce. Well, there's only one problem. Several of the unions sued, arguing the order violates federal law. O'Toole issued the ruling on Thursday, delaying the deadline until at least this coming Monday. However, former federal prosecutor and current criminal defense attorney Andrew Cherkasky tells the Federalist, historically, buyout programs have been a standard tool for managing federal workforce reductions efficiently and voluntarily. There is no constitutional or statutory prohibition against modifying the terms under which employees receive buyouts. So, yeah. He continued on by saying the judge blocking this EO is likely doing so on speculative grounds, perhaps arguing that it conflicts with statutory provisions, but executive, and this is the key, executive authority over the federal workforce has long been upheld, particularly when aligned with cost-saving and efficiency rationales. That's the key here, folks. So, also, too, there was another one. Let's see. What is this? Trump signed an executive order recognizing that there are only two sexes, male and female. As part of that order, men would be sent to men's prisons and vice versa. The order also specified that federal dollars would not be spent for the purposes of conforming an inmate's appearance to that of the opposite sex. But O'Toole issued a temporary restraining order against the directive, meaning that in a case that was brought by Maria Mo, who is a man who identifies as a female, Mo would not be transferred. Would not be transferred to a men's prison. So Mo was indicted in 2013 on 2 counts: conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute 50 grams or more of methamphetamine and distribution of 50 grams or more of methamphetamine, according to the case. Well, Cherkasky tells the Federalist that Trump's order is legally sound and that Trump has the authority to set policies governing the classification and housing of federal inmates under 18 U.S.C. 3621B, which grants the BOP discretion in assigning prisoners to appropriate facilities. He also continued and said the Supreme Court has long held that prison classifications based on biological sex serve legitimate government interests, such as safety and order within correctional facilities. In Farmer versus Brennan in 1994, the court acknowledged that prison officials must balance safety concerns when housing inmates, and the executive branch has broad discretion in making those determinations. And Cherkasky told the Federalist that both orders are clearly within Trump's lawful authority. He said that courts are not meant to serve as super legislatures, nor are they supposed to micromanage executive agencies absent of clear constitutional or statutory violation. Judicial activism in these cases represents an encroachment on the executive's rightful prerogative to govern federal employment and corrections policies. They also have this one, which I was just talking about. Colleen Collar-Cotelli issued a temporary restraining order Thursday that has blocked DOJ from obtaining access to certain Treasury Department payment records, according to Fox News. Now, this particular lady is, she previously sentenced 8 pro-life activists to federal prison, including 77-year-old Paulette Harlow, who entered a D.C. abortion facility in 2020 and, according to the Department of Justice, forcefully entered the clinic and set about blockading 2 clinic doors using their bodies, furniture, chains, and ropes. So she she also has said that Trump's January 6th pardons will not change the truth of what happened on January 6th of 2021, according to ABC News. So again, she's an activist. Yeah. She's also drawn comparisons between the Civil War and January 6th, according to CBS News. Yeah. So again, these are the ones that are doing all of this. And of course, eventually it's going to hit the Supreme Court. All of this stuff will go away. And, because the Supreme Court will uphold everything and so on and so forth. Well, occasionally we do run across a judge or two that are, occasionally the judge will run across a judge or two that actually has some brains and intelligence. Here in CNBC. So I told you about the Labor Department systems and how they were being sued, the unions sued for that. Well, the U.S. judge that got that case declines to block Elon Musk's Doge from Labor Department systems. He basically said that the plaintiff union has not shown that it was harmed. Unions fear Musk's access to sensitive data on probes and competitors, and Musk's role raises concern over dismantling agencies and firing federal workers, which again, that goes back to the whole thing. The executive has the carte blanche ability to make those kinds of changes. That's what executiving, if that's even a word, is done. Again, the legislature, the legislative branch, meaning Congress, makes the laws, the executive branch sees that they're carried out and how to do it. You can't constitutionally break that down and say, well, just because Congress doesn't like the way that it was implemented, that they should have control over it. No, they can't. So this federal judge declined to block Elon Musk's government cost-cutting department from accessing those systems. Again, this is the Labor Department. The temporary ruling was by U.S. District Judge John Bates in Washington, D.C., and is the first step in a lawsuit against the Labor Department by one of the largest U.S. labor unions, which alleges that billionaire Musk could obtain sensitive information about investigations into his own companies and competitors by accessing government computer systems. Bates ruled that although the court harbors concerns about defendants' alleged conduct, the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations, the AFL-CIO, had not shown that it was harmed by the Labor Department's actions. AFL-CIO President Liz Schuler said in a statement that the decision was a setback, but not a defeat, and said that the union is going to provide more evidence to support its claims. Yeah. So, again, this is all, a lot of this is noise, realistically. A lot of this is noise, and it's noise being brought on because the individuals who are being investigated and everything else are, starting to feel the pressure from the new sheriff that's in town by the name of Donald John Trump. Okay. I am almost certain to guarantee you that Trump has had lawyers evaluate all of this long before he even got into the point of actually doing it. Okay. Well, not too long ago, there was an individual who was a reporter, okay, who essentially got thrown under the bus because of the fact that this particular reporter, doxed one of the individuals who was working on the Doge team, and doxed it, and of course doxed the individual, and the individual, of course, immediately, resigned for whatever reason, for the good of themselves or however. And this was out of the Wall Street Journal, where all of this came from, which the Wall Street Journal is a leftist organization. Like I said, they're not going to go away quietly here, folks. They are going to fight with every chance that they can on all of this. Well, here's the thing. The reporter is now being outed and being investigated because her past raises suspicions about why she doxed the Doge staffer. This in the Blaze Media. The reporter who doxed Marco Elez has links to agencies that the Doge team is working to clean up. Huh. So to give you kind of a background, Marco Elez briefly served as a staff member on the Trump administration's Doge advisory group. Elez resigned Thursday after a brand new reporter at the Wall Street Journal dredged up some unsavory social media posts from a deleted X account and pressed the White House about the 25-year-old's connection to those remarks. While Elez might ultimately be afforded a second chance, a possibility raised by VP J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, and others, critics are now giving a second look to the resume of the reporter who pursued his professional demise. Keen observers noted that Catherine Long, who started working for the Wall Street Journal only last week, by the way, previously worked for agencies that are now undergoing significant reform as a result of the changes implemented by the Trump administration, in some cases at the urging of Doge. Based on her past work experience, some critics have suggested that Long's hit piece on Elez might be something more than just her latest doxing effort. Perhaps instead a form of retaliation on behalf of the scandal-plagued government forces with which she once rubbed shoulders. So before she was hounding conservatives and Republicans for Business Insider, and then, of course, working for the New York Times and the Journal, by the way, all of those are pretty left-leaning rags, Long worked at the State Department at the Bureau of Political Military Affairs, the State Department's extension to the Pentagon, and for the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID, apparently through the American Institutes for Research. In a profile on Fury, Long said, before matriculating at Columbia, I've been working for the federal government managing USAID projects in Central Asia. Yeah. Mike Benz, who is an executive director for the Foundation of Freedom Online, noted literally the only resume point missing is the CIA. Catherine Long's resume looks like a lot of regime change. Looks a lot like a regime change operative, wrote Alum Bukhari, the managing director at the Foundation for Freedom Online. Yeah. So, Heritage Foundation Oversight Project's Friday indication that the Business Insider number Catherine uses is linked to an OK.ru, called Okra, account under the pseudonym of Katya Kashimova, as a potential sign that the reporter has concealed her true identity. However, when previously writing for the Columbia Journalism Review, and initially when writing for the Seattle Times, which I can tell you is a leftist rag, guaranteed, the woke reporter went by Catherine Kashimova Long. Yeah, so now you've got somebody who is basically looking for revenge. And so, You can read the rest of the piece if you want to regarding her. But yeah, it's just, once again, folks, they are not going to go down without a fight. They really aren't. And honestly, I don't really expect them to roll over. I mean, that would be kind of stupid. They've spent 40, 60 years getting here, getting right to the edge where we were almost going to give up our constitutional roots and all of a sudden bend over for the leftist agenda. Yeah, they're not. Anyway, they're not going to go away without a fight. Well, speaking about fighting and going away without a fight, which I kind of wish that Kamala Harris would, she apparently made comments. I don't have this in the show notes, so don't bother. I mean, you can look it up if you want to. But apparently she made some comments about the fires in Los Angeles in her usual rambling way. And she basically said that the extreme fire occurrence that happened in LA was because of extreme weather. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Now, I know I talked about this particular Dem strategist. And her name is, wait a minute. Got way out of whack here. Anyway, her name is, Lindy Lee. Okay. And she was a Democratic strategist and Democratic National Finance Committee member who kind of got ousted. Okay. And now that Trump has won, it's now apparently open season by anybody who is a disenfranchised DNC member, particularly from the consultants who are out there, she being one of them. And apparently she's been making the rounds with media. And of course, nobody's really paying attention to this, which I think is really interesting. Anyway, she was on an interview with News Nation's Natasha Zulvez. I think that's how it's pronounced. Anyway, earlier this week, and Lee shed some light on key figures in the Democrat Party, including Barack Obama, Bin Laden, and Nancy Pelosi, in what they really think about Kamala Harris. Now, the conversation largely focused on the fact that neither Obama nor Pelosi wanted Kamala to top the ticket after Joe Biden was pushed off the cliff in his wheelchair. Forced out of the race. Well, many of us already kind of figured as much. We knew it. But Lee actually confirmed now that this was absolutely the case. She was asked directly, do you agree that Obama and Pelosi did not want Harris? Lee didn't bother to mince words. She said, I know they didn't. And she continued and says, I have a lot of friends in Obama world. Is that a place, Obama World? I mean, really, Obama World? It sounds like Wally's World, from National Lampoon or whatever. Anyway, and then she continued and says, and actually, I'm friends with Speaker Pelosi, and I spoke with her before. Zulvez asked, and what did she tell you? And Lee responded, it's not a matter of conjecture for me. I know they didn't. So according to Lee, all right, Pelosi gave tacit approval during the campaign to do media hits and call for Biden to drop out. She said it was fine. I went on air to encourage President Biden to step down, Lee revealed. It was July 21st when I went on Fox News Sunday and I said it was time for him to step down and pass the mantle to the next generation. It was necessary. It became clear. Oh, this is it. It became clear that he was no longer able to effectively litigate the case against Trump. Lee finished and added, and Obama and Pelosi were both hoping for a primary instead of a coronation. so to speak. So, yeah, pretty much everything that we kind of knew on this program and many other conservative programs. Again, this is conspiracy theories or just keep coming true. We can't seem to find an actual conspiracy theory anymore. They're truth and fact that show up all the time. Anyway, Lee kind of painted a nuanced picture, by the way, when she was asked about who Pelosi and Obama were actually backing. Now, this is key because this might give you an indication as to what 2028 looks like. All right. But here's the thing. Lee painted a nuanced picture. She didn't come out with anything particular. She said, I don't think Pelosi was hoping for anyone in particular, or not that I know of. I do know that Obama was carefully vetting Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona. She also said that she knows that there were other names on his list. She then notes, I'm not saying that Kamala Harris was necessarily at the top of Obama's list, but he was definitely considering other candidates. I don't think she was ruled out. Now, during this interview, Lee also gave a glimpse into the frustrations of party leaders over how Biden's swift endorsement of Harris effectively killed other options. So here's the thing, folks. This is what I was telling you. I think Biden knew he was getting pushed out, and just to kind of muck up the works, he did that quick endorsement of Kamala Harris and got her onto the ticket. Okay. So anyway, reflecting on the timeline, she recalled a lot of people anticipated that he might have stepped aside, but no one anticipated the 2-for-1 that we got that day. Now, if you honestly believe, and I'm telling you right now, that was Jill's doing. It had nothing to do with Joe. Joe is so far gone, he doesn't even remember that he was even president. Jill, on the other hand, she knew. She's been coordinating this from behind the scenes. Yeah. So those of you who are so, leftists that are all in for Kamala Harris in 2028, yeah. Your powerhouses, your Democrat powerhouses in the case of Pelosi and Obama, they didn't even want her. They wanted nothing to do with her. And that's because of the fact that they know what we all know on the right, which is she is a complete and utter disaster as a candidate and a complete moron. So now the question becomes, okay, so Biden's eventual downfall, of course, was obviously orchestrated by Obama and Pelosi. But the one question that has been sitting in all of our minds, even on the right, is what and who was running the country for Joe? Well, we now have a bit of a glimpse into that, thanks to, of course, Ms. Lee. So they're all, of course, the left is like losing their minds over Elon Musk's Doge. And they keep saying no one voted for Elon Musk. Well, yeah, no one voted for Elon Musk. No one voted for Kamala Harris. And she still ended up being your candidate. No one voted for half of the bureaucracies that have been running our country under the auspices of leftist organizations, which Elon Musk's Doge is now starting to expose. For an example, the USAID, which is not doing what it was intended to do in the first place. The U.S. Digital Service, USDS, that I talked about last night, was also something that is not elected. Well, Time Magazine, of course, I don't know if anybody saw this, okay, but Time Magazine had an issue, their latest issue, put Elon Musk sitting behind the Resolute desk, okay, symbolically kind of jabbing at the fact that he's really the one in charge, which is not true. But anyway, So Lindy Lee, again, a former Democrat National Committee insider, okay, was it has some new allegations that point to the fact that give me just a second here. Back in December, she revealed some new dirt on Joe's mental decline. She basically said that the president has not been cognitively fit to assume the duties of the Oval Office, and here's the key, for a number of years now. And she told this to Fox News. Now here's the thing. Wait a minute. A number of years. The man was only in office for 4. How many of that 4 is the number? Well, as you recall, the Wall Street Journal, just to kind of tie this in, the Wall Street Journal had suspicions dating all the way back to his 3rd month in office in April of 2021. Well, anyway, I mean, realistically, all she's going to do is just confirm what most of us already know. Well, she also said that she continued and said, "It breaks my heart because I know President Biden and I love the man, but he is in no shape or form able, I don't know what she was meaning there, but anyway, to carry out the duties that the commander-in-chief requires, and it's just devastating." Conspiracy, no longer conspiracy. Now, she started revealing about what happened in the White House after the aftermath of Biden's devastating performance in the June debate with Trump. According to Lee, Joe Biden was already staggering from public scrutiny, effectively lost control of the White House after the debate. The event reportedly prompted an audacious power shuffle, one that was spearheaded by none other than, wait for it, Hunter Biden. Now, Lee is alleging that following the disastrous debate, Hunter essentially took over White House operations. Now, here she was speaking to podcaster Sean Ryan. She painted a picture of dysfunction at the highest levels of government. She said after the CNN debate, Hunter basically commandeered the White House. He sat in on all the White House top-level meetings. We knew about that. I told you about that. She continued and says, "We had a former cocaine addict sitting on the most sensitive meetings of the most consequential and the most important government in world history. Does that sit right with you?" Well, Ryan's immediate reaction was no. She goes, "And without any security clearance, mind you." Oh, okay. So there you go. She claims that that's who was running the show. So Hunter basically battened down the hatches after the debate to make sure his father would only receive intel that he pre-approved, which may explain why Joe seemed to think that he could beat Trump again and that he was doing a fantastic job. And as 3 Chevy points out, Jill was there too. Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm telling you, it was likely both of them who were doing it. Yeah. And yet they're sitting here attacking Elon Musk for his interactions within the Doge community. Folks, I'm telling you right now, this Biden administration, if Obama was supposedly scandal-free, which he's not, because even the Mexican president, I was watching a little clip on X before I came on the air, and the Mexican president was blasting, essentially, the U.S. for allowing U.S. military weapons to get in the hands of the Mexican drug cartels. And she was asking, why is that happening? And I simply responded on X, hey, go back and refer, check your references and go back and refer to Operation Fast and Furious under Obama. There it is. Yeah, buddy, I'm sure that she was part of it too. Buddy Weiser points out, I bet Susan Rice was there. Oh, yeah, the fixer. Or was she the fixer? I can't remember. There's so many of these people that are just ingrained in this entire situation. You know, again, all of this should be absolutely abhorrent to the American people. Okay? This should be, I mean, the American people should be like ready to string up Democrats for all of this crap and not listen to those, the likes of, you know, Adam Schiff, Chucky Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. We should all, and even former President Barack Obama, we should be like, you know, flipping them off. And it should be, in terms of their likability ratings, they should be in the tank by now. But no, there's still a vast majority of Democrats who are still thinking that they know the way, that they are the chosen ones, that they are the smart ones. They should be ostracized. In the old days, they would have been tarred and feathered, potentially even hung on the White House lawn. Not saying that it needs to happen this time, because it doesn't. Okay, but political violence is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. All right. But that being said, there is a bit of a problem. And by problem, I mean as far as the leftists are concerned. Okay. They're not handling this Donald Trump term very well, as you can see. Okay. And one doctor in particular, and by a doctor, I don't mean like Dr. Jill Biden, you know, the doctorate of education or whatever. All right. But here in Breitbart, there's a medical doctor that's claiming that Democrats are suffering a real crisis after Trump's win. Depression, insomnia, grief, genuine fear, panic. Okay. So this is according to a Glenn Burnett, who is an internal medicine doctor from Wyoming. Burnett says that he advises his patients to turn off computers and televisions to restore their mental health. Burnett, who spoke with journalist Malk Halperin on Thursday night, disclosed that many of his Democrat patients are experiencing a number of severe mental health issues due to former Vice President Kamala Harris being defeated. Yeah. He told Halperin, we are dealing with depression, anxiety, and all kinds of mental problems that are related to that, like insomnia, chest pain, chest pressure, and then people that are there's some genuine fear and panic. Now, well, so here's part of the problem. Okay. And I'm being serious here because I don't want anybody's health. I really don't want anybody's health to suffer. But realistically, what ends up happening is, first of all, Three Chevy puts a big point, you know, these spoiled brats don't know how to handle defeat. Think about what has been going on over the course of the last, say, 20 years. Okay. That it basically means that they do not know how to handle disappointment. They don't know how to handle loss. They don't know how to handle it in a healthy way because they've never been taught it. These people have been taught, realistically, that you win no matter what happens. Whether you win or lose, you win. You get a participation trophy. You're rewarded for your participation. Okay. Great. But they're never taught how to lose. They've never been taught how to say or how to handle the word no. Now, I have a couple of other additive theories to this. First one is having to deal with a cognitive bias. And yes, I'm going to get a little mentally deep in this one, but this is kind of where we're at with this entire situation, okay? But here's some things that signs that you can identify when somebody has a cognitive bias. Now, keep in mind, all of this, this next little bit here, all of this is due to the fact that I've run across so many people on socials who are just so lost. And you can tell that they're lost. Now, this doesn't mean that they're not morons, because morons don't know how to handle and how to get out of certain situations that they deal with. But here's the thing. We've taken such a turn in our politics and even in culture today. And this is fully deserved. Don't get me wrong. It is 100% fully deserved. But the twist has gotten these people into so much of a uproar, and things are coming at them so fast. Like I said, and like I've said before with the news cycle, I mean, this is like drinking from a fire hose. You've got so much stuff coming at you, you don't know what to react to first. And so what's happening here, and this is mimicking a line from one of my favorite movies, Shooter, which has Mark Wahlberg and, oh gosh, I can't think of his name now. Danny Glover. There we go. Danny Glover in it. Danny Glover is commenting about Mark Wahlberg's character. Mark Wahlberg's character is portrayed in the very beginning of the movie as being a loner, somebody who, is living off the grid, living on their own. They don't, he's described as not venturing out very much, so on and so forth. And what ends up happening here is this. And Danny Glover's character sums it up like this. Some people don't know what to do when their belief system collapses. And this is what you're seeing. The angst, the worry, the physical, manifestations of their mental issues that they have that this doctor is seeing. This is all due to the fact that these people are starting to realize and starting to wake up to the fact that their entire belief system that they've been given for literally in some cases, their entire lives is starting to break down. And that reality is beginning to set in that things are not what they seemed. So let me get back to cognitive bias here really quick. So here's the signs that the website The Very Well Mind points out to how you can know whether or not you have a cognitive bias. And listen to these 5 points and tell me if this does not describe the leftists that are out there. First bullet point. Only paying attention to news stories that confirm your opinions. Okay, bullet point number 2. Blaming outside factors when things don't go your way. Attributing other people's success to luck, but taking personal credit for your own accomplishments. Okay. Assuming that everyone shares your opinions or beliefs. I think we're hitting 4 for 4 so far. Let's see, what's number 5? Learning a little about a topic and then assuming that you know all there is to know about it. I don't know about you, but that's 5 for 5. So that's just one of the things that I think is going on with some of these people. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. And actually, based on those 5 bullet points that I just read, yeah, it pretty well describes just about all of them. Okay. Anyway, here's another thing that they fall into often, which is confirmation bias. So, I forgot to tell you what the definition of cognitive bias is. Cognitive bias is basically a systematic error in thinking that occurs when people process and interpret information in their surroundings that is influencing their decisions and judgments. Okay? So the key there, of course, is that it's a systemic error in thinking. Really? Okay. So now let's move on to confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, by definition, is the type of cognitive bias, which we just covered, that favors information that confirms your previously existing beliefs or biases. Okay? So that's the definition. Now, here are some signs of a confirmation bias. Kind of close to the cognitive bias. We've got 5 bullet points here. So here's bullet point number 1. Only seeking out information that confirms your beliefs and ignoring or discrediting information that doesn't support them. Now, this one in particular, I'm just going to take a little bit of a side note, go down a small rabbit hole. But this particular thing has presented itself, this particular bullet point has presented itself multiple times in my conversations with rabid leftists on social media. And I say conversations, I mean, they're just back and forth, texts, essentially. But this one shows up all the time because they immediately sit there and say, oh, well, that isn't true. For an example, I presented the 14th Amendment debates, the Senator Howard definition that the 14th Amendment, as he sponsored it in the Senate, did not apply to foreigners, aliens, or people who are here under embassies and ambassadorships. And immediately the individual came back, said, no, that's not how you interpreted that. Really? That's not how you interpret that. Okay. Whatever. Okay, so here's bullet point number 2. Looking for evidence that confirms what you already think is true, rather than considering all of the evidence available. So a lot of times in this particular bullet point, a lot of times what you can see is, for an example, there was a rumor that was running around that Donald Trump willingly got shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, just to prove that he was going to be president or to try and bolster his presidency. I know of literally 0 people with any type of intelligence that could tell you that, yes, I am willing to get shot at. Considering the fact that this was outdoors, there were environmental conditions that would not have been able to be handled or dealt with for that close of a shot. And beyond that, the fact that there were people who died because of this. There's no way that somebody would go and willingly get themselves shot just for this. Okay, here we go. Here's point number 3. All right. Relying on stereotypes or personal biases when assessing information. Let me tell you, Have you ever seen that Ari, I think it's Ari Fleischman, or maybe it's somebody else. I know his first name's Ari. I'm not really sure what his last name is, but anyway, where he goes around and he does these man on the street interviews, and he went to UC Berkeley and he talked to them. This was this was probably 5-10 years ago, maybe. But definitely not recent. And he goes and he asks these UC Berkeley folks, he's like, hey, do you believe that black people can get ID? And almost every single person that he showed, they all said about the same thing, which is, well, yeah, how are they going to know how to get ID? I mean, ID to vote. How are they going to know how to do that? You know, one of them even went so far as to say, well, they don't have the internet. Really? They don't have the internet. They don't have the internet in Harlem, right? Yeah. Well, of course, that was obviously false because Ari went to Harlem and asked a bunch of black people and said, hey, do you know where to get ID? And they were like, oh, yeah, you go down to this corner on this street and that street, and there it is, the DMV. It's right there. We get ID. It's like, I'm carrying ID right now. How are you going to survive without ID? You can't even buy alcohol. You can't buy medicine. You can't buy all these different things without ID. Well, this is exactly where that bullet point falls into play. They're relying on stereotypes that black people are not intelligent, which is wrong and racist, by the way. But they went ahead and they go do that. All right. It's, they do that all the time. Oh, they talk about it all the time. Like, oh yeah, black people need affirmative action. Why do they need affirmative action? If they're qualified for the job, I don't know of anybody today, realistically, that, again, you might run across it a little bit, but the vast majority is not racist. The vast majority of this country doesn't see color anymore. We don't need it anymore. Okay? Now, another bullet point here. Selectively remembering information that supports your views while forgetting or discounting information that doesn't. That bullet point is used all the time by the left. They recite certain things that they believe come from the Constitution, or they cite certain things from amendments. For an example, the Second Amendment basically states a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state. They only target the well-regulated part. And when you attempt to tell them well-regulated, which doesn't mean the same thing that we think of it in terms of regulations today, okay, that's not the case. Well-regulated, when this was written, meant something that was in working order, that was in proper working order. Well-regulated was like a well-regulated mind, a well-regulated clock. And when you present somebody in that frame of mind with the definition from Webster's 1823 dictionary stating that exact thing, they can't understand it. They're like, no, that's not what I meant. Really? That's the point. That's the point. They're selectively remembering information that only supports their view and forgetting or discounting information that doesn't. Their view is that nobody should have arms. That's what their view is. Now, this one down here is definitely along the leftist line. If you've ever dealt with any leftist, here it is. This is it. Having a strong emotional reaction to information, whether it's positive or negative, that confirms your beliefs while remaining relatively unaffected by information that doesn't. If you, and I'm telling you people, I'm telling you folks, these leftists, this is one of the things that they do. They have confirmation bias. They have cognitive bias. They don't even realize that they're doing it either. That's part of the problem. They don't even recognize the fact that these biases could exist, because they can't look in the mirror and see anything other than their fantasy land where they are the center of the universe and everything they believe is right and true, regardless of when being presented with alternative information, that they cannot shift or change their worldview to fit with what reality actually is. And believe me, they have strong emotional reactions, both positive and negative. For an example, if you tell somebody who is a leftist and you say, hey, Donald Trump was liked by many people in the African American community, okay? He was given awards by people such as Jesse Jackson, by people such as Al Sharpton. This is exactly the kind of reaction they will give you. They will tell you all kinds of negative things. And you sit there and look at them and tell them, well, hey, if Trump was so racist, why was he given all of those awards? Why was he honored by all of those, by like the NAACP or whatever, other organizations such as that? Why? If he is so racist, and again, they're being presented with something that doesn't conform to their beliefs. See, they've swallowed the pill. They've swallowed the Kool-Aid that says that Donald Trump is a racist, that Donald Trump is stupid, that Donald Trump only wants to get us into world wars, that Donald Trump, whatever. And yet, every time they're proven wrong, they still believe without a shadow of a doubt that Donald Trump is this evil person. When in actuality, when you peel away all of those biases and everything else, you can take a look at Donald Trump and go, you know what? All he is transactional in nature, and he's a New Yorker, which means that he's going to tell you what he thinks regardless of whether you like it or not. That's the way he is. And that's the way he's always been. But these people on the left, these leftists in our world, they don't want to give up any of this at all, and that is exactly why they are in the meltdown. That's exactly why you're seeing what you're seeing. Now, what's sad about all of this, of course, is that, and I really hope that I am completely 100% wrong on this. However, back in 2020, you could see that this probably isn't going to be the case. But keep in mind, they're going after the courts right now. They're using the courts against us at this point, okay? When the courts fail them, they will get into such a tizzy that don't put it past them to, again, become violent. We need to be prepared for that eventuality. Not saying it will come to pass. Lord knows, I hope it doesn't. But the plain and simple fact, because again, I go back to, before I started this entire segment, that line from that movie. When people's belief systems, not punchlines, but actual core beliefs, when they disintegrate, they don't know what to do. That's when they become dangerous in some cases. Something we have to watch for, folks. But there. So now I've given you a little bit of a glimpse into the Democrat mind. and their mentality. So hopefully you'll be better prepared to understand that they're not going to listen to you, because they're not going to be willing. Yeah. Like G or Woodens over on Rumble already said, they're already using the terms "take it to the streets," for an example. Yeah, Hakeem Jeffries did not too long ago in his speech. They're already talking about it. So don't put it past them. Don't put it past them. All right. Well, there were a couple wealthy areas that everybody pretty much knows about in New York in particular. And East Hampton is the area that I'm talking about. And apparently, according to this article in former Lawman, wealthy New York elites are panicking right now. They are fearing that ICE is going to deport their illegal alien maids, gardeners, and nannies. Yeah. So in East Hampton, apparently residents, many of whom, according to the piece here, rely on undocumented workers, translate that to illegal aliens, for domestic and labor services, gathered for an emergency meeting amid fears that ICE might begin large-scale deportations. At the meeting, East Hampton Town Police Chief Michael Sarlo sought to reassure attendees that local law enforcement would not be assisting in federal immigration enforcement efforts. Yeah. Yeah. Really? Now, I want you to take note that person's title was a police chief. Police chiefs don't overrule the sheriffs of the county in terms of the hierarchy, because police chiefs are usually appointed, not elected. Anyway, continuing on, he said, the only way any of my officers could ever enforce federal immigration law is if they were deputized. Deputized. What does that tell you? That means the sheriff can deputize people. His sentiment was also echoed by the East Hampton Village Police Chief, Jeffrey Erickson, who confirmed that local officers would not honor those ICE detainers or administrative warrants. Really? So, yeah, he said, if it is an ICE detainer or an administrative warrant, we do not have the authority. We will not hold them. The meeting also heard from members of the local migrant community, including Daniela Rivas, who shared her personal fears and the anxieties faced by other undocumented workers, read illegal aliens. She goes, it's really hard for me when my 10-year-old daughter asked me, Mom, are you legal? Adding that she said, Rivas said, adding that many migrants were too afraid to attend the meeting. East Hampton Mayor Jerry Larson sought to further calm fears, stating, it's clear to me that everybody thinks that ICE is just going to come and take anybody that is here. That is not what is happening, he said. Some residents emphasize the role undocumented migrants, read illegal aliens, play in the local economy. Alex Lovett, a resident, noted that they are a vital part of the community and that many businesses and homeowners rely on their labor. Yeah. Yep. Now, keep in mind, the debate over sanctuary cities and immigration enforcement is far from localized just to East Hampton. There's many other places that these people are afraid that they're going to lose their slave labor. Let's just throw it out there in reality, okay? Come on, folks. Seriously? I mean, you get over on them by paying them low wages or whatever else. They talk, the left talks a good game about, hey, we want to pay, living wages. And yet, what do? Rather than hire somebody who is legally here in this country and paying them a livable wage, they hire undocumented workers, read illegal aliens, in order to be able to pay them less. And believe me, don't tell me that they don't sit there and look at you and go, yeah, well, you're going to accept what I pay you, because if you don't, I'm going to turn you in. Yeah. These people, you cannot believe a single thing that they said, because again, keep in mind, in their worldview, they are doing good by keeping these people here, by giving them these quote unquote jobs, which, by the way, I'm just going to remind you that reports at the tail end of last year showed that more American-born workers are out of jobs because of the foreign influx of people. Anyway. All right, let's move on here. So remember how I told you last night, I think it was last night, that that Donald Trump revoked Biden's security clearance? Coco D, insert name here, says, Democrats have always loved their slaves. That is so true. Oh my gosh. And what's funny is that the left, if you tell that to a leftist, they'll tell you that somehow the party switched, even though there's no indication in any way, shape, or form other than some leftist ranting about how the Southern strategy all of a sudden made the South start voting Republican, rather than accepting the fact that there were other factors that were involved in that particular sea change. But whatever. Anyway, to get back to this, so you remember Trump removed Biden's security clearance and his intelligence briefings, daily intelligence briefings, or whatever they are. Well, now he's removed Anthony Blinken's, Letitia James, that New York thorn in his side, Alvin Bragg, the other New York thorn in his side. He's revoked all of those security clearances, among some others that are there. Now, of course, that decision came one day after the president stripped former President Biden of his security clearance. So former National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Biden's Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco, and attorneys Andrew Weissman, Mark Zaid, and Norm Eisen have all been pulled as well. So, there you go. The move comes a day after Trump stripped his predecessor, former President Joe Biden, of his security clearance and his access to presidential daily briefs. There's no need for Joe Biden to continue receiving access to classified information, Trump wrote in a post on Truth Social Friday night. He added that the precedent for that was set by Biden himself. So he's also taken other people's security clearances away, which is, I wonder how that's going to affect any of the legal cases, like the one that Letitia James just filed, that she received an injunction for a week on. Wonder how that's going to play in. That's going to be kind of interesting to see how that's going to play out. Anyway. All right. And last thing for tonight, Trump's not playing around, folks. He wants America to be first. He wants America to be at the top of any negotiation, or at least equal to any negotiation, whether it is trade deals or anything else. He is focused on that. And of course, his favorite tool of choice, which I've discussed earlier this week, is the tariff. So here in the Epoch Times, Trump says he's going to unveil reciprocal tariffs on other countries next week. What he is looking to do, once again, is to equalize trade relations. We have trade deficits, and this is what something, again, I discussed this at length in one of my earlier episodes this week. We have trade deficits with many other countries. Trade deficits are when we import more than we export to those countries. And what Trump is attempting to do is he's going to utilize the tariff as his weapon of choice to balance that scale and bring it back to where either we are equal with or potentially even benefiting from these kinds of things in some way, shape, or form, whether it's some sort of a political motivation, such as what he used against Colombia and Mexico and Canada and even Panama too. But this is Trump's plan of attack. So he basically laid out his plans yesterday, in particular, for a reciprocal tariff announcement expected either Monday or Tuesday of this week, which basically means that nations that impose tariffs on U.S. products can expect similar policies in return. He says where a country charges us so much and we do the same, I think that's the only fair way to do it. That way, nobody's hurt. He made remarks during a joint press conference with the Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, I should say, at the White House. Now, he did say that more details would be provided in a news conference to be held on a date yet determined in the coming days. So, Trump again is America first. And he's told reporters at an impromptu gathering before the meeting with Ishiba that the United States should be treated evenly with other countries. We don't want any more. We don't want any less. It's pretty simple. It's the way it is. He also mentioned auto tariffs are under consideration. That's always on the table. It's a very big deal because we have cases where we don't supply autos and other countries do. So, yeah, just keep in mind, folks, tariffs are not what people think they are necessarily in Trump's world. Trump is just using them as the, like I said, carrot and stick approach to try and get these countries to come back to the negotiating table and negotiate fair deals. They may or may not come into play. They may or may not come into fruition. So no need to panic. Just understand this is Trump's favorite way to get people to do what he's looking for them to do, which is, for the most part, getting them back to the negotiating table. And sorry, folks, I do not have a question of the week because, unfortunately, I didn't receive one. So if you want a question of the week for whiskey for next week, send it in. Send it in to fans@americanperspective.online. That's fans@americanperspective.online. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Hey, if you haven't done so, just as a quick reminder, if you haven't done so already, go to americanperspective.online. Wait about 5 seconds, you'll get a pop-up. That pop-up allows you to sign up for a subscription to The Perspective, which is the American Perspective newsletter. Now, admittedly, it isn't in full swing yet, but it will be soon. However, what you should do is you should get yourself signed up so that when it does go into full swing, you'll already be a subscriber. Doesn't cost you a thing. All it does is add you to an email list so that you can get the newsletter when I get it written up and sent out to all of you. So again, go to americanperspective.online, wait about 5 seconds for the pop-up to show up, and put your email and your name in the boxes and click subscribe, click the button, and you'll be added to the email list. Also, too, don't forget to head on over to rumble.com if you haven't already and get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure you search up the American Perspective channel, hit that green follow button, and make sure that you get notified whenever I go live. Before you take off, don't forget to hit those thumbs up buttons and those like buttons across all of my outlets, whether it's X, Facebook, YouTube, and of course the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media, LLC. All rights reserved.